In the shadowed embrace of the Scandinavian wilderness, ancient secrets slumbered beneath the earth, waiting for the call of an intrepid explorer. Sean Wyatt stood next to his wife, Adriana Villa, and his best friend, Tommy Schultz, each scanning the rugged landscape with a predator's intensity. The golden sun cast a luminescent glow on a series of runestones scattered around the ancient ruins, their engraved messages a beacon through time. Crisp air nipped at their skin as they navigated the sacred site, each step a dialogue with history. The stones, worn by time, stood as silent witnesses to the sagas of old. Sean, with his eyes sharp and probing, read the landscape like a seasoned sailor reads the stars. His mind, a well of knowledge and intuition, sensed the pulse of the mystery that beckoned them forward. Adriana knelt beside the nearest stone. Her fingers traced the runes that whispered of forgotten kings, glorious battles, and long-lost treasure. Each glyph was a word in the story they sought to uncover, a tale of power, greed, and the unrelenting pursuit of renown. Tommy studied another stone script, his eyes poring over the long-dead language with an uncommon expertise. Sean refocused his attention and peered out into the surrounding woods, a silent sentinel aware that danger often comes cloaked in shadow. The wilderness, beautiful yet indifferent, watched their every move with a million unseen eyes. Tommy informed the others that the runes spoke of a treasure map, one veiled in the mists of time and guarded by the dead. The path they were about to embark upon, the stones said, was etched with peril and mystery, leading them into the heart of darkness itself. Lurking within that darkness, watching with narrowed eyes, was Viktor Dragovic, a man whose soul was a cauldron of unsated ambition and malice. Once a mercenary, now a shadow broker of ancient and priceless artifacts, Dragovic sought the Viking treasure with a zeal that burned like a raging wildfire. His name, whispered in fear and contempt by those who knew it, was synonymous with the ruthlessness with which he pursued his quarry. As dusk wrapped the sky in a tapestry of reds and purples, Sean, Adriana, and Tommy huddled around their meager campfire. The flames danced with wild abandon, casting ghostly shadows that played out tales of their own. Sean's voice, low and steady, broke the silence. "We're on the cusp of history. Tomorrow, we dive deeper," he said. With the first light of dawn the next day, they resumed their journey, the wilderness enveloping them in its vast, indifferent embrace. The forest, alive with the rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds, watched in silence as they passed. Every step led them further into the labyrinth of history, closer to the treasure, and deeper into the web of Dragovic's machinations. Without warning, the tranquility of their pursuit shattered like glass. A rustle of leaves, a subtle shift in the air, and suddenly, Dragovic's mercenaries were upon them. Sean reacted with instinctual speed, ushering Tommy to the ground as arrows sliced through where she had stood moments before. Sean's pistol, drawn in a flash, barked out its defiance, the sound echoing like thunder through the silent woods. The battle was a tempest, brief yet ferocious. When the dust settled and the gun smoke cleared, 3 of Dragovic's men lay dead among the trees. But the real trouble was just the beginning. The mercenaries were but the first wave in a tide of darkness that sought to engulf them. Even so, they'd uncovered the final clue, the secret to the location of the lost Viking treasure so many others had desperately sought in vain. Based on Tommy's interpretation of the runes, the treasure was located on an island battered by the relentless North Atlantic. There, amid the howling winds and crashing waves, they would face their destiny. The treasure, an artifact of untold power and significance, lay hidden within the bowels of this storm-ravaged outpost. After flying back across the Atlantic, they found themselves on the isolated atoll. As they prepared to descend into the belly of the island, the air around them thick with the scent of salt and impending confrontation, they understood the gravity of their undertaking. This was more than a hunt for a lost treasure. It was a battle for history itself, a fight to preserve the past from the clutches of those who would see it corrupted. With the storm above them and the unknown below, Sean, Adriana, and Tommy stepped forward into legend, their hearts beating to the rhythm of adventure, their spirits unbroken and wild. They were the vanguard of history, the keepers of secrets, and they would not be denied. The gale above raged with a fury that matched the turmoil in their hearts. As they descended into the island's depths, each step was a descent into the very maw of history. The cave's spine loomed before them, a gaping portal to a past both splendid and somber. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of the sea and the whispers of those who had walked these paths before them. Sean led the way, his lantern cutting a swathe through the darkness. The walls, slick with the kiss of the ocean, told their own stories in carvings and etchings made by long-dead hands. Adriana, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and theories, examined each mark, each symbol, translating the ancient language into a narrative of their own making. Tommy, his senses alert to the dangers that lurked in the unseen corners, moved with a grace born of necessity. His eyes, accustomed to the play of shadow and light, watched for any sign of Dragovic's men, for they knew their pursuit was far from over. The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the air became. It was as if the very earth itself sought to press down upon them, to crush them beneath the weight of centuries. The darkness was a living thing, a cloak that sought to smother their courage and extinguish their torches. But they pressed on, driven by a need that went beyond mere curiosity or desire for fame. They were the custodians of a legacy, the guardians of secrets that were not meant to be forgotten. The artifact, with its promise of power and danger, was a siren call that could not be ignored. Suddenly, the narrow passage opened into a vast chamber, its size a testament to the ambition and skill of its creators. Here, in the heart of the island, the air was alive with the echo of the ocean's roar. The chamber was a cathedral to history, its walls adorned with intricate carvings, and its floor strewn with the offerings of those who had come before. In the center of the chamber stood a sarcophagus, an altar to the past. It was crafted of stone and iron, adorned with the images of Norse gods and heroes, a testament to the belief and artistry of a bygone age. The lid, heavy with the weight of years, was a barrier that stood between them and the final answer. With a reverence born of respect and a thrill that came from the precipice of discovery, they approached the sarcophagus. Each knew the gravity of the moment, the importance of the artifact that lay within. It was a relic that had shaped history, a piece of the past that had the power to influence the future. As Sean and Tommy prepared to lift the lid, a sense of foreboding washed over Adriana. Her instincts, honed by years of training and field experience, whispered of danger, of a threshold that was perhaps not meant to be crossed. But the moment of hesitation passed as the desire to know, to understand, pushed them forward. They lifted the lid, and the chamber filled with the sound of grinding stone and the rush of air, as if the world itself was taking a breath. Inside, wrapped in the tattered grey fabric, lay the artifact, a glimmering ruby cut in a perfect circle, contained within a silver eye patch. The enigmatic object was beautiful, a creation of metal and gemstone that pulsed with an inner light, the Eye of Odin. "There's a mechanism," Tommy realized, assessing the cradle in which the artifact lay. "We'll need to counterweight it." The shadows around them stirred. Dragovic, with his mercenaries at his back, emerged from the darkness like a specter of greed and malice. His eyes, cold and hard, were fixed on the artifact, his desire for it a palpable thing. He'd caught up and gotten the drop on the three Americans. They were trapped, and Sean knew the odds of getting out alive were slim. "Give me the eye," Dragovic demanded, "and I will offer you mercy." "A quick death?" Sean guessed. The villain merely nodded. Men like Dragovic didn't allow loose ends. There was no chance he was going to let Sean and his friends leave here alive, if at all. There was only one option, and Sean loathed to use it. But he had no choice. If Tommy was right, and there was a mechanism connected to the artifact, removing it would cause a chain reaction to an ancient trap, essentially burying all of them in the crypt. "Fine," Sean said. "Take it." He reached over and lifted the artifact and the time-worn fabric from its resting place, and turned toward the enemy. The instant he removed it, something clicked within the sarcophagus. A deep rumble rocked the chamber. Dust and debris shook from the ceiling and walls. The floor shifted, and the sarcophagus began to sink into the floor. At the same time, a massive stone slab started to lower above the only doorway in or out. "You want it?" Sean shouted over the cacophony. "You got it!" He reared back and flung the wad of fabric through the narrowing doorway. "You just sealed your fate, Wyatt!" Dragovic yelled. He and his men sprinted toward the door, leaving Sean and the others within the chamber. Dragovic barely made it through the opening, ducking below the slab as it slid toward the floor. One of his henchmen snuck through as well. The last two weren't so fortunate. They dove to try to slide under the heavy stone, but it dropped suddenly, crushing them under its weight. "I hope you have a plan," Tommy said, as the sarcophagus kept sinking into the floor amid the sounds of stone grinding on stone. Sean nodded and pulled the artifact out of his belt behind his back. "I thought you," Tommy said, leaving his sentence unfinished. Adriana grinned proudly at her husband. "That's great," Tommy continued, "but what about getting out of here?" "They took the wrong way out," Sean said. "This place was designed to trick whoever stole the artifact into going back the way they came. The builder's clue was the key to getting out of here, guarded by the dead." They watched as the sarcophagus disappeared into the darkness below, revealing another chamber and a tunnel through the rock. Sean and the others lowered themselves down into the passage and found their way back out into the frigid, salty air. Meanwhile, Dragovic and his remaining henchmen ran for the exit, but a series of heavy stone slabs continued to drop with every step. The last of his guards stumbled on a jagged piece of the floor and fell. He screamed for help, but his voice cut off as a giant stone dropped onto his head, crushing him into oblivion. Dragovic's eyes filled with horror at the sight, but renewed his run to freedom. Up ahead, he could see the exit, but he knew there was no way he could make it. The stones were dropping too quickly now, shutting off his path. He gave one last, desperate push. He could taste the cold, salt-infused air, but it was too late. The last stone fell into place, leaving him a mere 10 yards from freedom. He turned around as the last of the traps settled onto the floor, sealing him in the passage forever. Resigned to his doom, he breathed heavily and unwrapped the fabric he'd scooped up in his haste to escape the trap. All he found inside it was a pistol magazine, and he realized Sean must have swapped it out amid the ruckus. With Dragovic defeated, his ambition extinguished like a snuffed flame, Sean and the others turned their attention back to the artifact. It lay there, a silent witness to the struggle, its secrets locked away behind layers of history and myth. As they emerged from the cave, the artifact secured and the threat of Dragovic ended, they knew that their lives had been changed forever. They had touched the past, had held history in their hands. The world, with its mysteries and wonders, lay open before them, a vast tapestry waiting to be explored. And as they looked out over the ocean, the waves crashing against the shore like the heartbeat of the earth, they understood that their adventure was far from over. For Sean, Adriana, and Tommy, the horizon was not a boundary, but an invitation, a call to continue their journey into the unknown, into the heart of history. As they stood on the precipice of the cave, the artifact in hand, the ocean's roar a constant reminder of nature's unbridled power, Sean, Adriana, and Tommy realized the journey they had undertaken was more than a quest for treasure. It was a pilgrimage into the depths of human history and ambition, a voyage that tested their limits and deepened their bonds. The artifact was an enigma wrapped in metal and stone. Its surface, etched with symbols and designs of a bygone era, seemed to pulse with an energy that defied explanation. As they gazed upon it, the trio felt a sense of awe and trepidation. What powers did it hold? What secrets were locked within its ancient form? Their contemplation was interrupted by the sound of approaching helicopters. Reinforcements from the IAA and Axis Agency had arrived, a team of experts and security personnel ready to transport the artifact to a facility where it could be studied and protected. The arrival of the helicopters also signaled the end of Dragovic's threat. The mercenary leader, now subdued and in custody, was a defeated man, his dreams of power shattered by his own greed and the unwavering resolve of Sean, Adriana, and Tommy. As the IAA team secured the area, the trio took a moment to reflect on the events that had unfolded. They had faced death, navigated treacherous paths, and uncovered a relic of unimaginable significance. The physical wounds they bore were a testament to their ordeal, but the emotional and mental scars ran deeper. They knew that the world was full of hidden dangers and wonders, and their journey had only scratched the surface. Discover more great Sean Wyatt adventures on Kindle or paperback through the link in the description.